thank you, the entire team of Psychology Circle, for giving me this opportunity. So, we will, I'm permitted to talk to you for 30 minutes, and after that, we will have a discussion. And I will just quickly go through the sessions, and so that I can have some time to take up some doubts which you may have after the presentation. Okay, my topic of the day is scope of psychologists in the Middle East. So when we think of Middle East, it is most of the areas covered, the countries covered are Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, UAE, Oman, Yemen, where you can see some of the countries which are still developing, and some of the countries are very developed countries. But when we think of a job in Middle East, most probably you will be thinking about UAE, or sometimes like Oman or Saudi Arabia. Mostly sometimes you will even think about Egypt, but not to other areas. So in already developed countries, like well-developed countries as United States, UAE, and Qatar, they have a very good system of administration with regards to health authority and all. So I will pick up one area that is not all entire Middle East. Instead, I will be speaking about United Arab Emirates. So almost all of the countries of Middle East have the same management system, and when it comes to the, for example, Qatar have Hamad Medical Corporation and the National Health Regulatory Organization there in Bahrain, so DHA in Dubai, etc. So Middle East, a little bit about Middle East, what it is, we'll just see. Middle East connects the three continents of Asia, Africa, and Europe. And some facts about Middle East, like Arabic is the world's fifth most widely spoken language after Chinese, Spanish, English, and Hindi. And you will get an opportunity to learn Arabic once you are in the Middle East. And immigrants make up roughly 85% of the population in the UAE. That means almost 85 population, 85% of population is expatriates. That means only 15% are the real nationalites here. And United Arab Emirates and Bahrain have very low crime rates. And according to per capita income, Qatar is one of the richest countries in the world. And that is why people are preferring Middle East to work as their preferred country. And just see the UAE, this is the most developed country, since past 20 years. And it was fastest country, it's the fastest developed country when compared to other countries because of emergence of oil and all this stuff. And what about psychology in the UAE? The field of psychology in the UAE began in the 1970s with the establishment of an undergraduate program in psychology in the United Arab Emirates University. And Emirates Psychology Association was established in 2003. Mental health services and general field of psychology are not yet matched to the popular, common expansion. That means there is a lot of shortage of mental health professionals, and we have a lot of opportunities are coming up. So what about a psychologist here? Psychologist means here a bachelor's degree in psychology, and it may need to hold a master's degree in psychology or related field of work, and higher qualification is preferred. Of course, when we think of psychologists, the first major thing which we need to have is master's degree, some bachelor's degree. Without bachelor's degree, even if you have master's degree, sometimes you will have difficulties to get licensed here. So it is mandatory that years of education is very important than what you hold, MSc or MA. But whether you have completed your 6 years of education, that is what they are asking for. Why it is 6 years of education? Especially when we are coming from India, it is very difficult. We need to have 6 years of education, even after completing your master's. But major cities like major countries like our bachelor's degree are 4 years in duration. That is the problem here. So we need to have 1 year of extra education after your master's degree. Then only we will be able to get licensed without any much hassles. The psychology, for example, some of the universities in Dubai, like Heriot-Watt University in Dubai, they provides a program, psychology honors program, that is has a duration of 4 years, and this is for the students with the science or commerce background who are interested in systematic study of cognition, mind, and behavior. And one more university, I will just share it with you, that is American University of Sharjah, and it also has 4 years of education for BA psychology program. And when it comes to Masters of Science in Clinical Psychology, UAE University have its College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the department, and they have 2 years of master's program, and that is full-time regular program here in UAE. When it comes to licensing, you have like many licenses which is available based on different in which emirate you are working. UAE is comprised of 7 emirates. It is not like Dubai is not a country, Abu Dhabi is not a country, but it is different emirates. We have 7 emirates there in UAE, and altogether it is called it is a different country like that. So it is just like as we have different states, we have in India, it is like in UAE has different emirates, 7 emirates like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Al Quwain, Fujairah, and some of the emirates like that. So we have different emirates have different like licensing system. For example, Department of Health, that is HAD, that is for Abu Dhabi, and Dubai Health Authority, DHA, Ministry of Health, that is applicable to all other emirates than Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and Dubai Healthcare City, that is a specialized license to work in that special city in Dubai. And healthcare city means like it is located in the heart of Dubai to take care of all the healthcare needs of people here. And Community Development Authority, like for all the community psychologists and general psychologists, all are coming in that category. I will just brief about some of the licensing procedures here. And psychology discipline titles are like DHA, for example, DHA or HAD is providing with titles of clinical psychology, health psychology, neuropsychology, forensic psychology. And Community Development Authority of Dubai or UAE provides like marriage and family psychologist, occupational psychologist, child psychologist, counseling psychologist, and educational psychologist. So these all are the disciplines we can really work with. And clinical psychologist qualifications are like there are 2 criteria for to be called as clinical psychology. One is bachelor's degree in the field of psychology, that is must, and postgraduate doctoral degree, example PhD, PsyD, education D, and diploma in clinical psychology, whatever it is, it's based on like the based on the how many years of experience you have for your postgraduate degrees from an approved psychology faculty or an educational faculty with focus on psychology. And second criteria is bachelor's degree in the field of psychology, and postgraduate full-time master's degree includes MSc, MA, and MPhil of minimum 2 years course duration from a psychology facility or an educational facility with focus on psychology, provided that bachelor's degree is minimum 4 years duration. For example, if you are a master's degree holder, you need to have well before that you have to go for 4 years of bachelor's. That means only 6 years of education is required to call as clinical psychologist, to be called as a clinical psychologist. Along with that, you need to have 2 years of experience post-qualification in the related field. Mostly they will ask for an experience from your home country. That means without your home country experience, it is very difficult. You need to get a license here. And what about DHA application requirements? It is professional qualification requirements. That is what I just mentioned. What are the study requirements which you need to have, qualifications you need to have, and official educational transcripts that will be available from your university or college, whoever is providing transcripts, including your marks, your all of the score sheets, etc. And recent professional experience based on DHA PQR criteria, professional qualification criteria. You need to have at least 2 years of same experience. Like if you are asking for a forensic psychologist, you need to have experience as forensic psychology from India, and valid professional license from India. That is also mandatory, or from any of the countries when you are residing at. And valid good standing certificate not older than 6 months, and medical fitness test if you are 65 and above, and the test should be conducted only by medical fitness centers at the Dubai Health Authority validated. And valid passport copy and passport size photograph. This is enough to just apply for Dubai Health Authority licensing. And there are certain other positions like psychometrist, that is a person who is holding just bachelor's degree can apply for psychometrist license, that is available in DHA. Minimum 2 years experience post qualification is needed. That means like if you are having just only bachelor's, you can apply for the psychometrist position. And assistant psychologist, this title is reserved for UAE nationals, and bachelor's degree in psychology from psychology department faculty or an educational faculty with focus on psychology. No experience required post qualification. After you are acquiring qualification, you do not have any experience for this particular post. But the psychometrist and assistant psychologist license allows practice only under on-site supervision by a licensed psychologist or clinical psychologist. That is very important. Like you cannot independently, you are not permitted to practice independently as psychometrist or assistant psychologist here. So this all are the the process flow chart, how to obtain a licensing. One, it is you yourself can do that. You need not approach any middle person to get this license. It is self-assessment tool is available, manual review is available. It is like you can just go to DHA website, and that you will be asked for data flow group about your qualifications and all. Data flow means like it's like a middle group, they will ask for your certificates, and they will check with your registration number to whatever the specific universities you have studied, and they will just cross check your eligibility criteria and all, and later they will report back to DHA. That data flow group, it is international group, doing all the certificate validations, etc. And submit application to DHA. Once it is data flow is approved, and you can submit your application, and you need to do your DHA payment fees, etc. And once the approval done, you need to go for another examination. Sometimes it is oral, and sometimes it is computer-based assessments. You need to pass that examination, and once the result is ready, you are eligible to hold the license. And later, having the license means, it doesn't mean that you can independently practice. You need to you need to have an offer letter from the hiring authority, hiring department, or hiring facility. It's like if I'm having a license, that doesn't mean that you can practice elsewhere. Like you need to tag this license with one facility who can have you as a clinical psychologist. So your facility license and plus your personal license, both together called as a DHA license, then only you are permitted to practice here. That means being a clinical psychologist here is not enough. You need to have your visa as clinical psychologist. And professional accepts invitation, and hiring facility will submit the active application to activate your professional license as clinical psychologist, and you are fully approved as a clinical psychologist. And of course, this is available for I'm coming to CDA license. it's available for 5 years of education. After like 3 years of bachelor's and 2 years of master's, you can have a CDA license, like a Community Development Authority license. This professional titles include psychologist and psychotherapist, assistant psychologist, social counselor, behavior analyst, assistant behavior analyst, etc. So we need to, if you need to have a title of behavior analyst, you need to have some 6 months course on ABA or something. For assistant psychologist and psychologist, you can have directly, you will be permitted to practice as a CDA license. So requirements for CDA license, data flow is not required. Like your certificate verification will not be done by a data flow group here. Instead, like you need to get equivalency of certificates from Ministry of Education here. Like for example, you need to have transcripts from your university and you need to submit it to this Ministry of Education of UAE, so that they will give you an equivalency and they will check and let you know the equivalency status and all. And other than that, you need to have 1 year of experience from your home country. And here, what about work setups here? Like you can work in corporate hospitals like NMC, where I'm working right now, or just similar corporate hospital, or mental health facilities and clinics here. Like here, one major mental health hospital is available for the country, that is run by Dubai Health Authority. And the specialized rehabilitation centers and special school facilities will have clinical psychologists or rehab psychologists, and they can work in that particular setup as well. Inclusive education setups are there for just psycho. If you want to work as school psychology, that is possible. Even without certificate, without your licensing, it is possible to work as school psychologist. And inclusive setup, you can work as psychologist as well. And human resource trainings is another area of emerging field here as psychologists. And teaching, for example, most of the universities, most of the +2 courses, they are providing psychology as one of the papers, so that you can involve in +2 teaching here. And university departments and research, you can involve in that as well. But thing is like there is some challenge to get into universities, because most of the universities are preferring like Western trained psychologists here. So maybe when you are planning your studies abroad, that will be a good option to be placed well here in UAE as well. And a bit of caution, like you need to be mindful of cultural differences. Like sometimes Dubai is a place, as I already mentioned, like not Dubai, it is UAE. It's a country with 85% of population, of expat population, and you can meet all the people. Sometimes you will have Europeans as your patients, and US citizens as your patients, like here UAE nationals as your patients, Asians as your patients. So there will be a lot of cultural differences out there, and you may need to be mindful about that. And there is a starting trouble to start working here in UAE, of course. When you are trying abroad, in any of the countries, of course, you will have a little bit of difficulties when you are going for first minimum 2 years. You need to have some troubles adjusting with the social norms, having placed in a good position, etc. Like initially, sometimes you may not be like whatever the experience you are having back in India, that will not be counted here. That is just where they will ask for, like whether you have a GCC experience or like a UAE experience. And if you don't have a UAE experience, sometimes you will be like you will be provided with a salary of basic, the starting salary for the position. And once you have completed first work setting, sometimes you will be provided with a good salary and all. And the third one, I did not write it here because like there is some kind of like discrimination regarding like whether you are Western educated or you are Indian or Asian educated, etc. But it is not much of even your countries. It is not much of differences, because what happens here is that is based on your currency as well. That is one thing which we need to keep in mind, because like of course when Westerners currency, when it compared to like Dubai currency, that the value is different, and Indian rupees, the value is different. So maybe based on your currency also, they may like judge you based on your currency, based on your education and so on. But it is not everywhere, but you might feel that discrepancies in salary or in positions, etc. But still, the positive thing about that, there are even there is some little bit of difficulties like that, but still you can have a very good work-life balance compared to back in India. Of course, at least your salary will be minimum 5 to 10 times more than your Indian counterpart. Okay, that's the one positive thing about UAE. And if you wanted to spend your money for leisure activities and whatever there are a lot of ways you can spend your money, a lot of activities you can involve. Dubai is really a tourism hub. So with this, I'm just stopping my short presentation. And if you have any doubts, clarifications, and suggestions or comments, you are welcome to do that.
Thank you, Dhanesh sir, for your lucid presentation. It's very crisp and clear. Right, starting from the history, where you have also taken us to what are the courses available and the licensing and the disciplines which they are giving, and also who is a clinical psychologist and the process to be getting involved in licensing, and also adding your experience to the rich experience of you being as a clinical psychologist also adds a lot of immense insight to the presentation. Currently, we almost got 9 questions. I think there are a lot of questions also is coming. So I will choose some of the questions so that we will be able to discuss about that. Is that okay, sir?
Sure.
So first question is from, so Hind Begum. The question is that, can we make up 6 years by doing a PG diploma after master degree? So basically from going from the Indian Institute, can we do a diploma and make it as a 6 years?
Yes, that is possible.
That is possible. Yeah. Okay. So another question which is raised by Safida Safi, and what is the teaching career in UAE for psychology PG candidate, for being in UG or being in 12th class students or being a school psychologist? What is the teaching career?
Teaching career, like for 12th standard, means like a +2 level teaching, you need not have any licensing for that. And you can directly apply for the specific institute, you can get placed. When you are interested in teaching +2 and all, there is no specific licensing for that, of course. Like it is up to the school. You can have interview with them, like they will call for the positions, etc. If you are just searching some psychology positions in UAE and all, you can have minimum, you will get at least 20 to 30 positions are always vacant in UAE. It's based on based on your expertise. And if they are not satisfied with your position, sometimes they will not even hire. They will just keep the post vacant. That is the nature here. And they will be waiting to get the right candidate for that particular position. And mostly, all the recruitment is done through middlemen. Like there are a lot of recruitment agencies. So then to make them satisfied, that is very important here, so that your CV will be counted.
Okay.
And one more suggestion is that I will just ask you to have your CVs ready, in different format. It is European format, it is not in Indian format. Just to make sure that you are following the international format of your biodata or CV, because that is necessary. Sometimes if there is bulk application, sometimes they will just go with scrutinize through some different programs and all. So just type a European format of your CV so that you can have that. Yeah.
So next question is that what if someone doesn't have a bachelor degree in psychology? Maybe the question she asks is that Anukriti Singh. So she's asking that if I'm doing another major degree, then I'm coming back to master's degree in psychology. What is
Uh,
medicine lab?
Still, you can have CDA license. CDA license means, like a community psychology license. But even if you have like 2 years of master's degree from India or wherever, you are eligible to have that license. But thing is like you need to fight for that, and you need to prove that why you are coming from a different field here, and they will have a lot of questions, and sometimes your interview will be a little bit tougher than expected, and all those things. And like it's better always stick with uh, one field. That is what my suggestion is. If you are really interested in psychology and to become psychologist, better like always 7 years of education, and plus once you complete your masters, then you can go for even MPhil clinical psychology or any other course, because then your years of education is on par with other psychologists. Then nobody is there to question you.
Yeah, right. So another question by Tessie, where that can MSc can work as a clinical psychologist, or should they have an MPhil degree over there?
MSc is a person with MSc is eligible to work as a clinical psychologist, but thing is like our MSc comes as with 5 years of education. Because of that, you will not be permitted to work as a clinical psychologist, and you need to have 6 years of education for that. At least you need to do 1 year of a diploma course in clinical psychology or related or rehab psychology to complete your like 6 years of education. That is a challenge here. So to have DHA, like here the most valid license is Dubai Health Authority and DOH license, hard license. And when it comes to CDA license, sometimes your salary will be a little lesser than other licensing. So most important license as clinical psychologist, to be licensed as clinical psychologist, you need to have at least hard license or DHA license, and they will ask for 6 years of education.
What you have said, there is another question. Is there 2-year experience is mandatory to work as a school psychologist or clinical psychologist?
Clinical psychologist it is. For school psychologists and all, it's not that very like mandatory. But I know some of the people, like they have completed their MPhil in clinical psychology over there, and just because of they don't have the 2 years of experience back in India, they are not permitted to work as clinical psychologists. It is so disheartening to see that. So it's always better you can have at least 2 years of experience from your home country well before you are planning to work in UAE.
So there's another question, which is by Fisa Abisi and many other people. What is the possibility of internship in UAE?
Yeah, that is another. I just forgot to mention that. If you don't have 6 years of education back in India, you can very well come here and you can do internship. And there are like certain hospitals and government setups, they are providing internship, but you need to pay the fee for that. Like with that fee, of course, like it's paid internship. So it's very difficult. Sometimes you will feel like, okay, I'm working also and I don't have like my salary. Instead that I'm paying them back. So internship facilities are available, but it is very less in number.
Okay. And
but you can look for it if you wanted to have the experience, and you need to compensate that 1 year of education.
So another question, which comparing to the Indian setup, is there any use with qualifying net examination when planning to work in Gulf countries? Is there any value to that?
If you are like, there are a lot of Indian universities and Indian, and here comparatively, almost 50% of the population is from like Asian population, and almost 40% of Asian population is Indian. So what happens here is that a lot of Indian schools are available, and they will give you preference if you have net examination or set examination, etc. So there are a lot of our CBSE curriculums are available, and if they have some sort of psychology programs in CBSE schools, of course they will prefer it. Indian schools. But mostly, if you are planning for international universities and all, unfortunately, they prefer Western educated candidates. And even if you are having PhD or even if you are well experienced back in India, sometimes they will not prefer. It's not. Sometimes your CV will not reach their HR directly because like a lot of a lot of middlemen involved, and sometimes most of the recruitment is done by the middleman.
Yeah. Sir, another question which has been raised by the students is that would you like to talk about some of your experiences in the subfield, like rather than the clinical, what are your experiences or scopes of other subfield in the UAE, like criminology or any other field?
Things like from my experience, I should say, though I'm a clinical psychologist, I was working in Dubai Autism Center as well as a rehab psychologist. It's not a rehab psychologist, a clinical psychologist who can work as a rehab psychologist as well, but a certificate of rehab psychologist cannot work as a clinical psychologist. So I was working in the field of rehab as well, like especially in ADHD, especially for autism, and there are plenty of opportunities here, and it's emerging because initial stages of development of any countries, it's like infrastructure, and now right now Abu Dhabi or Dubai is ready with the infrastructure, and next level of development is of course human resources, and when they are asking for human resources, and of course when humans are involved, the recruiters are interested to have, there are many opportunities, and there will be a lot of people, and psychologist role is emerging. Yeah, and still it's emerging because it is not well established because still mental health is not covered under insurance here. Without insurance it's very difficult to go for a medical checkup. So there are some insurance companies are providing, like premium insurance companies are providing insurance for mental health services, but still it is it is beginning stage.
I think a lot of questions are coming. I will take a few more questions. Sir, would you like to talk about what is the status of IGNO or distance education, how they consider in UAE, whether it's kind of equivalence?
Uh,
Would you like to talk about it, sir?
I can very well say if you are opting for DHA and have the licensing, it is not possible. And if you want to try for CDA licensing, sometimes they are a little bit flexible. And if you have years of education, if you can show some real impact with your knowledge of psychology and all the stuff, they may permit you because it is based on their discretion. And there are people they are telling it was very easy for them to have uh, uh, the license, CDA license, but some people are there, they are whatever the try they give for CDA, and they are meeting people in person and all, still they are not permitting. So it is how a little bit luck also. So usually in one word I'll say not to a distance education program.
Okay. Sir, another question another concern which they have raised is that if, what if the one can a person have two licensing in the UAE? Like as you mentioned in your procedure, can the person have two
You
licensing?
need not have two licenses, but I have DHA license as well as DOH license. You can, because DHA, initially I started working in Dubai. At that time I need to have DHA Dubai Health Authority license, but recently I shifted to since past 1 year I'm working here in Abu Dhabi. Of course, then I need to go for Abu Dhabi license, but thing is that is not a big deal because you can always transfer it. You can have two licenses, and it is the facility's responsibility. That means your hospital will take care of the transferring needs and all those things. So you need not give for another, you need not pay for another exams. You need not appear any exams for that. It's transferable. DHA can be transferable to HAD, HAD can be transferable to MOH, like that. So MOH license, DHA license, and HAD license. It is with same status.
So the procedure will transfer this one from her to this one, or any other things?
Yeah, procedures are very easy. Like once if you have this single license, DOH or DOH or HAD, both are similar license. Like and DHA and MOH license, Ministry of Health license. You need to have only if you have any one of these license, you can always shift to another one. No problem.
Okay. Another concern which three of the participant has been raised is that whether they can have B.Ed degree, whether anything contributed to their school or teaching there, or is it nothing value or what it is?
Usually they are not asking for B.Ed, but if you have B.Ed degree, like it's another advantage. So obviously, like they will check the weightage of your CV, right? If you are planning for your career as school teacher, of course you can go for it because they will prefer it. There are a lot of like Indian schools, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Another question which tell is that put some light upon scope of counselor. What does the counselor called as there? Is it psychologist, or what is the role of their counselor?
Yeah. Sometimes like even if you have counseling psychologist or CDA licensed psychologists, there are two facilities. Sometimes facilities need to have a license to give you a job. That's very important. That's what facility license. And CDA licensed facilities can employ only CDA licensed professionals. Okay, and DHA licensed, almost all the hospitals are licensed to HAD or DHA. So when you are working for hospitals, like you need to have DHA license or HAD license. So most of the time, like counseling psychologists or like regular DHA or CDA licensed psychologists, they are also working as psychologists and they will get patients there also. And of course, sometimes they will not be permitted to do any psychometric and psychometric assessments after you cannot sign in the assessment reports and all. Because like for that, they will prefer DHA or HAD licensed psychology. That's the only difference.
Yeah. So another thing, I know that it will be depends various matters, but would you like to give some insight to the participant that what might be the range of the salary? I mean, for the psychologist, I know it's a very personal question, but the psychologist or one something with like that. I mean, range.
It's not very personal question. Even I also would like to know. Well, before that, I was working here because if you are planning to come here and work as a psychologist, please don't be fascinated by the range of salary which they are offering because like they will tell you that I will give you a 10,000 dirhams which can be converted to like 2 lakhs and all, and 10,000 dirhams and all. It is very very minimal salary here and it's very difficult to survive with that 10,000 dirhams. So it's like if you are going for a clinical psychologist job, and please start negotiating at least 14 to 15,000 dirhams. Yeah, that can be the basic start. And here I did not get much opportunity to interact with my fellow colleagues here. Because of that, I had a little bit a hard start when I came here because like my salary was not very good and all. But once it is, like we are here and you can just step up again to the next level. Okay. Yeah, so it is 3 lakhs to 4.5 lakhs you can easily make.
Okay. So there's another question which I in my mind because I think you have answered most of the questions with when your presentation.
I just see one question and people are just asking like without bachelor's, if they have a master's degree and if they have MPhil in clinical psychology, sometimes it is not possible to work here, unfortunately, because like they will ask for your bachelor's. If you wanted to have a CDA license, that is possible, but not DHA or HAD license. For certain, they will not permit you to work here as clinical psychologist. Instead, that you may need to work as like school psychologist or CDA licensed psychologist, counseling psychologist, but not as clinical psychologist.
Sir, I have in my mind is that would you like to have some discussion about what is the current scenario? I mean, what the pandemic has put in the or in UAE, and what is the changes which has happened to the scope of the psychologist in Middle East, or is it an increase, is the same, or how the setting has been changed? Would you like to talk about it, sir? Because it will give insight.
I should say that it is pandemic did very good things to psychology profession. That's what I should say, because it's not just psychology. Instead, it is general mental health. Like even psychiatry, population, and all the mental health professionals are recognized after. Like we get recognized after pandemic hit, and there are a lot of, even I was working for DHA in DHA isolation facilities, and we had a lot of foreign programs and all. It did very good to our profession here. Right now, it is very well controlled, and we don't have much of patients with COVID and all. It is very well controlled by the government. Yeah.
Sir, did you use any online therapy, or is it the same way it has been conducting over the roles?
Well, initially it was online sessions by all the hospitals, and now they have shifted to face to face. Now it is just we can just we are permitted to move, but thing is like frequent testing is there, and in fact, like in every weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, we need to undergo testing, and if there is any symptoms and all, you need to go for isolation for this many days and all. But all the requirements, all the expenses of isolation and everything will be taken care by the authorities and by the government. So it is wonderfully handled here. So
I think I will take the last question because I think you have been answering to a lot of questions which is very relevant, which address the concern of the participant and the delegates over here. The last question which has been raised by Ranjana PK is about, can you talk about the scope of organization psychology in UAE? Is there any, you have talked in your slide regarding the chart training, so would you like to talk about it, sir?
yes, it's an emerging field, of course. Like just now, as pandemic hit, and we got very good, like mileage after pandemic. Uh, it's like as clinical psychologists or mental health professionals, but the organizational psychology, the concept of organizational psychology and HR management, all those things are still emerging. And still this kind of like facilities or this kind of services are handled by HR, by themselves, like human resource persons, and maybe they would have completed MBA program, or they will be from MSW background and all. But thing is like we need to do a lot of things to have a good placement as organizational psychologists here. Right now, it is not very promising situation as OB here.
So, is that what do you think about, sir? If there is some questions more again coming, can we take that questions, or
Yeah,
would you say,
I think I just rush through because I know there will be a lot of questions, especially when they are trying for licensing here, etc. That's why. How much UK's master's degree is valued? It is valued.
sir, what are the common language to be developed while working there as a psychologist? What is the skill language skill we need?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like you can like what major working language? Your working language will be in English, of course. Since I'm not very good at Arabic, or I cannot even have very basic conversation in Arabic. Of course, you need to have. But thing is like you can have your patients. Even you can meet your patients, Kerala patients or Indian patients, Hindi patients. It's multilingual, in fact. You you will have a lot of opportunities to mix with many cultures, mostly English is working language. So English and Arabic is working language here, so it is very easy for you to manage. And when it comes to assessment and all, more of a Western-oriented assessments, Western model assessments are followed here. And instead of MISIC, sometimes we will use like WISC-5, or instead of VA, like VSMS, we'll be using WAPs here. Of course, WAPs are used there also, but still a kind of inclination towards Western model is there in UAE.
Okay. So what are the comparing to the Indian setup and the Dubai setup? If the cost of living and the financial earning which they have, what would you like to comment about it, sir? I mean,
It's different level, like, even I have seen when it comes to working class, I'm seeing people here, like, even with the 2000 dirhams, like people are very happy to live, provided they are having their facilities, like their facilities will be providing their food and accommodation and all, and the 2000 dirhams is their take home salary. And sometimes people will be provided with like a middle class, like if a school psychologist, if you are working as school psychologist, your salary will be somewhere around 4000 to 5000 or 6000 dirhams, something like that. So with that you can lead. For example, if your both the partners are working, then it's very good salary, like 8000 4000 to 8000, that range it will be for an assistant psychologist or school psychologist salary. And with that you can lead a good life, like it is based on how much you are earning, how much you are spending. It is work-life balance, of course, how much you wanted to spend here. And here it is like, whatever you are earning, that is your money. It is not, government will not pressurize you to spend your part of money here, and you do not give the tax here. It is tax free salary. You can take home the entire salary which you earn. So that is the basic difference between, like, Western model, or if you're working here there in like US or in Abu Dhabi. Like when you are working in US, you are forced to spend your salary there, and a little bit of part of salary you need to spend there, and you need to give taxes. Like it is the US taxes, again, it is higher tax, just like India. So here we have only 5% of VAT that is just available. That is for everything. It is in fact, like, income tax is not there. So it's up to you if you wanted to save a good amount of money, or if you wanted to like just have exacerbate, like the life, rich life you can go for, based on your need, based on your experiences so far as far as life is concerned.
so while comparing decent amount of money which
Yes, so
getting
like when it comes to when compared to India, of course, your quality of life will be much better here, because like wherever you are going, you will be inside the AC halls, AC rooms, and just working hours is just 48 hours. That 48 hours in a week. Nobody will ask you to work extra time here, because like if you wanted to complain, you can complain to the concerned authorities, and you will get your free air ticket to and fro to your home country, and you can even have like free medical insurance, and you professional insurance, like and you're protected in all the other ways, and everything is controlled, so that just like like there are a lot of in Kerala, what is going on between clinical psychologists and psychologists, and all these confusions will not be here, because like everything is written, everything is controlled by the authorities. So it's bit free, and still you can have a lot of friends, and you can spend your free time. And here my working hours is 48 hours, and like I just need to complete 48 hours. I just choose 5 days. That means like I will have 2 days holidays and 30 days paid holidays, like a month paid holidays available so that you can visit your country and come back. Like, it's very flexible in that aspect. So, and working nature, working culture also, like, you need not to see so many patients like back in India, like it will be again like controlled, and you will have a lot of, the reporting system is different. Even if you are seeing one patient, like you need to report about the patient, you need to generate the reports and all the same day. So there will be a lot of like, that is the difference, major difference from India, because like you need to have everything will be like computerized. So one session, and if you are not reporting that one session or reporting in your computer regarding this, whatever happened in that session, if there is any complaints later on is generated, or if the patient is complaining against you, against your services, and if you don't have any valid, proof to show whether the patient is attended this many sessions, or all these things are, all these services are provided and all. If you don't have that, that's a big, disadvantage, and you might be sued for all those things in the court of law.
Yes, it was with your presentation and the discussion that the quality of the mental health professionals' life and the quality of the services which delivering over there is different from the Indian context and the Middle East. And you have covered the area which we how to pursue our career in response to the in the context of Middle East countries. And thank you so much for being a very lucid presentation and created more discussion and answered all the questions which has been raised by the participant. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us, and your valued time has been given and experience has given a rich information with regards to what is happening in the Middle East.
Thank you, Miss Sab. Thank you, everybody. Happy to meet you, Miss Sab, after a long time. Afsal, I could see like, okay, like Ali. Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you all
Thank you, sir.
after a long time.
Nice to meet you, sir, too.
Keep in touch, keep in touch. And if you have like, I've just emailed you my presentation, and if anybody requires, you can very well like, forward that.
Sure, sir.
It has some information regarding like, how to go about the licensing part of it and all this stuff.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Shall I wind
Yes.
it up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Nice to meet you, sir. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.